The dawnlight broke through the cracked stone archway, painting the temple ruins in shades of blood and gold, and Sera pressed her back against the cold pillar, forcing herself to breathe slow and steady through the panic rising in her chest. 3 days of running. 3 days of river crossings and ash rubbed into her skin until she stank of nothing but smoke and wet earth. Her father's trackers had lost her scent 2 sunrises ago. She'd watched them circle the ravine from her perch in the cliff hollow, their frustration sharp enough to taste on the wind. She was safe. She was alone. She was free. The lie settled heavy in her stomach, because freedom shouldn't feel like this. Her pulse stuttered, a strange flutter beneath her ribs that had nothing to do with exhaustion. Something was wrong. The air in the temple shifted. Not wind, but presence. Sera's breath caught. She knew before she heard the footstep, before the shadow crossed the threshold and stretched long across the moss-covered floor. The bond in her chest pulled tight, a string drawn taut between her heart and someone, moving closer. No. She'd run far enough, hidden well enough. He shouldn't be able to find her. But the Alpha King stepped into the light anyway, and the world narrowed to the impossible fact of him standing there, whole and real, and looking at her like he'd never lost her at all. Cael didn't speak. He didn't rush forward or raise his voice. He just stopped 3 paces inside the temple, his dark eyes fixed on her face, and Sera felt the bond flare hot and undeniable in her chest. The same pull she'd been running from since the moment their eyes had met across the pack gathering, and she'd known. Fated. Hers. His. Impossible. She shoved herself upright, her legs shaking beneath her, mud cracking and flaking from her arms. You can't be here. Her voice came out hoarse. 3 days of silence and fear stripped it raw. Cael's jaw tightened, the only sign he'd heard her at all. He took another step, slow and deliberate, and Sera's back hit the stone column hard enough to bruise. Don't. The word broke between them. Don't come closer. He stopped, but his gaze didn't waver, and that was worse, because she could see it now, the same terrible recognition she'd felt burning in her own chest. You covered your scent, he said quietly, his voice low and rough, like he hadn't slept since she'd fled. Mud and ash, river water, smart. Sera's throat tightened. He shouldn't sound impressed. He should sound angry. Cael tilted his head, just slightly, and something flickered in his eyes, gold bleeding through the dark. But I don't need your scent, Sera. Her name in his mouth felt like a brand. She pressed harder against the pillar, her nails scraping stone. Then how? I feel you. He touched his chest, right over his heart, and the bond between them thrummed in answer. Here, every beat, every breath. No. She shook her head, desperate, the truth of it crashing over her in waves she couldn't fight. That's not, you can't just, I can. His voice dropped lower, gentler, and somehow that was the most terrifying thing of all. I could find you at the edge of the world, Sera. The bond doesn't lie. Then it's wrong. She forced the words out through clenched teeth. I don't want this. Cael went very still. For a moment she thought he'd argue. Demand. Command. He was the Alpha King, ruler of the northern packs, known for his ruthless control and the cold precision with which he held power. Everyone said he took what he wanted and bent the world to his will, but he just stood there, 3 paces away, and looked at her like she'd struck him. I know, he said softly. Sera blinked, the response so unexpected it knocked the air from her lungs. Cael's shoulders shifted, tension coiling through him, but he didn't move closer. I know you ran. I know you're afraid. His gaze held hers, unrelenting. But I'm not letting you go. Her pulse spiked, anger flaring hot beneath the fear. You don't get to decide that. No. His voice turned rough, edged with something raw and unguarded. The bond does. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Sera's hands curled into fists, mud flaking from her knuckles. "Then you're no different than him." Cael's eyes flashed gold, a growl building low in his chest. Not threat, but pain. She'd hit something deep. "I'm not your father," he said, every word carefully controlled. "And you're not my prisoner." "Then let me leave." "No." The single word hung between them, absolute and unyielding. Sera's breath came faster, the bond pulling tighter, and she hated it. Hated the way her body wanted to step toward him even as her mind screamed to run. "Why?" The question tore out of her, desperate. "Why won't you just let me go?" Cael's gaze darkened, something haunted moving through his expression. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, jaw tight. And Sera realized with a cold shock of understanding that he was afraid too. Whatever his reason, it terrified him as much as this bond terrified her. 3 days earlier, Sera had stood in the corridor outside the council chamber, with her hand pressed flat against the cold stone wall, trying to steady her breath. The Alpha King's scent had filled the pack house since dawn. Rich, wild, undeniable. She'd felt the pull before she'd seen him, before anyone had told her he'd arrived to negotiate the alliance her father had been pushing for months. It had hit her like a fist to the chest, stealing the air from her lungs and making her wolf rise with a desperate, aching need she'd never felt before. No. She'd stumbled backward, away from the council doors, her pulse hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Not him. Anyone but him. The bond had snapped into place the moment he'd walked into the great hall. She'd been serving wine to the visiting dignitaries, playing the dutiful daughter, as always. And then his gaze had found hers across the room and the world had stopped. Gold eyes. Sharp. Ancient. Certain. He'd known instantly. So had she. Sera's father had been mid-sentence, discussing territory boundaries, but the Alpha King's attention had never wavered. He'd tracked her movement as she'd set down the pitcher with trembling hands and fled toward the kitchens, her wolf clawing to turn back, to go to him, to submit. She'd made it to her quarters before the nausea hit. Fated mate. The words had circled her mind like carrion birds, picking at every fear she'd buried since she was old enough to understand what her father's control had cost her mother. The Alpha King was worse than any pack leader she'd ever met. Everyone knew his reputation: ruthless, cold, uncompromising. He'd unified the Northern Territories through sheer dominance, breaking pack after pack until they bent to his rule. And now the bond wanted her to belong to him. She'd packed in the dark hours before dawn. Just a small bag with essentials and the silver pendant her mother had given her before she died. The one thing her father had never managed to take. Leaving meant becoming rogue. It meant severing ties with her pack, risking exposure to rival territories and lone hunters who preyed on unmated females. It meant survival on instinct and cunning alone, with no protection and no pack bond to anchor her wolf. But staying meant surrendering to the bond. To him. Sera had climbed out her window just as the sky began to lighten, dropping silently into the courtyard garden and slipping through the eastern gate while the guards changed shift. She'd run. Fast and hard, her wolf lending her speed even as it fought her every step, howling in protest at the distance growing between them and their mate. By midday, she'd heard the trackers behind her, her father's enforcers, sent to retrieve his wayward daughter before the Alpha King could take offense. She'd covered her trail as best she could, wading through streams, doubling back, using every trick she'd learned from the hunters in her pack. But the bond was a beacon. She'd felt it that first night, the pull in her chest shifting direction as he joined the hunt. Not her father's men anymore. Him. Sera had stolen ash from an abandoned fire pit and clay from a riverbank, covering herself in layers thick enough to mask her scent. It had bought her time, maybe a day, but she'd known even then it wouldn't be enough. He didn't need to smell her. The bond would lead him straight to her heart. She'd made it to the temple ruins by the third dawn, exhausted and shaking, her wolf so weak from fighting the separation that she could barely shift anymore. The old stones had offered shelter, walls thick enough to hide in, but not escape. There was no escape, not from this. Sera had curled up in the shadow of a crumbling altar and let herself cry for the first time since she'd fled. Silent tears that tracked through the mud on her face and dripped onto the dusty floor. She'd wanted freedom, wanted to choose her own path, her own mate, her own life. But the bond had chosen for her. And the male it had chosen was a king who commanded wolves the way other men commanded hounds, absolute and without question. Her mother's voice had echoed in her memory, soft and sad. The bond is a gift, little star, but only if both wolves are free to accept it. Her mother had never been free. Sera's father had claimed her through an arranged bond, political and cold, and her mother had withered under the weight of his control until there was nothing left but silence and sorrow. Sera wouldn't let that happen to her. She'd die rogue first, die alone. But then the sun had risen, golden light spilling through the broken roof, and she'd felt him. Close. Too close. The bond had hummed to life in her chest, pulling tight, and she'd known with absolute certainty that her time had run out. The Alpha King had found her. Sera pressed her back against the cold stone and watched him enter the temple. He didn't rush, didn't call out. He simply walked through the broken doorway like he'd been expected, his silhouette dark against the morning light. The bond flared in her chest, sharp and insistent, and she hated how her wolf whined in recognition. The Alpha King stopped 3 paces inside and tilted his head, listening. She held her breath. He was taller than she'd imagined, broader. The rumors had painted him as cold, all edges and command. But the way he moved was fluid, controlled. A predator who knew exactly where his prey was hiding but chose not to strike. Yet. "I know you're here," he said quietly. His voice rolled through the space between them, low and rough, and her wolf shivered at the sound. Sera dug her nails into her palms and stayed silent. He took another step forward, then stopped again. His gaze swept the ruins, the fallen columns, the shattered altar, but never quite landed on her. It was deliberate. She realized with a chill that he was giving her space, letting her decide when to reveal herself, as if she had a choice. "You can keep hiding," he continued, his tone even, "but we both know it won't change anything." Sera's jaw tightened. She shifted slightly, and the movement sent a small cascade of dust from the ledge above her hiding spot. His eyes snapped to the sound immediately, and then to her. Their gazes locked. The bond surged. It felt like lightning and honey all at once, burning through her defenses, pulling at something deep in her chest that she'd been trying to ignore for 3 days. Her wolf rose up with a desperate, keening need, and it took everything she had to shove it back down. He didn't move, just watched her with those unreadable, dark eyes. "You ran," he said finally. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even an accusation. Just fact. Sera forced herself to stand, her legs shaking beneath her. The mud on her skin had dried in cracked patches, and ash streaked her arms and face. She knew she looked half wild. Feral. Good. Maybe it would remind him she wasn't some docile wolf waiting to be claimed. "And you hunted me down," she shot back. His mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. "I did." "Why?" The word came out sharper than she intended. "You have a whole kingdom. Plenty of wolves who'd fall at your feet. You don't need me." "No," he agreed. "I don't need you." Something in her chest twisted painfully at that. Then he took a slow step forward, and she felt the bond hum between them like a plucked string. "But you're mine anyway," Sera's breath caught. She forced herself to hold his gaze even as her wolf whimpered and begged her to submit, to go to him, to let him close the distance and take the choice away so she wouldn't have to carry the weight of it anymore. But she'd seen what that looked like, watched her mother disappear piece by piece under her father's rule. "I won't be owned," she said, her voice shaking. "Not by you, not by anyone." He stopped moving. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, something she couldn't name. "I'm not your father." The words hit like a blow. She flinched before she could stop herself. "You don't know anything about him." "I know enough." His voice was quieter now. "Careful. I know why you ran. And I know what you think I'll do if you come back." "Then, let me go," she whispered. For a long moment he just looked at her, the bond pulled tighter, insistent, and she could feel it in her bones now. Not just the connection between them, but something more, something deeper. His heartbeat. She could hear it in her mind, steady and strong, matching the rhythm of her own. It should have terrified her. Instead, it made her ache. "I can't," he said finally. "Why?" Her hands curled into fists at her sides. "Because you're a king, and you're used to getting what you want?" His jaw tightened. "Because you're in danger." She laughed, bitter and sharp. "The only danger I'm in is from you." "No." He took another step forward, and this time, she saw the tension in his shoulders, the barely leash control. His eyes flashed gold for just a second, wolf rising to the surface, before he forced it back. "You don't understand what's coming." "Then explain it." "There's a war." "There's always a war," she interrupted. "Your wars, your enemies, your kingdom. None of it has anything to do with me." "It does now." His voice dropped lower, rougher, and she felt the bond flare again, hotter this time, urgent. "Whether you accept it or not, you're tied to me, and that means every wolf who wants to weaken me will come for you first." Sera's breath hitched. She hadn't thought of that. Hadn't considered what being his mate meant beyond losing her freedom. "Then reject the bond," she said desperately. "Break it. Let me disappear." His expression finally cracked. Just for a moment, she saw something raw beneath the control. Something that looked almost like pain. "I can't do that either. Why not?" He stared at her for a long moment. Then he said the one thing she hadn't expected. "Because I already tried." The words hung in the air between them. "Because I already tried." Sera's chest tightened. She wanted to look away, needed to break the intensity of his gaze, but she couldn't move. The bond hummed beneath her skin like a second pulse. He'd tried to reject it. The Alpha King, the wolf everyone said took what he wanted without question, had tried to sever their connection before she'd even known it existed. When? The word came out barely above a whisper. "The night I felt it snap into place." His voice was rough, strained. 2 weeks ago, you were probably asleep, safe in your den, dreaming, and I was in my chambers trying to claw the feeling out of my chest. She flinched. He saw it, and something shifted in his expression, softened just slightly. "It didn't work," he continued. "The bond wouldn't break, and every day after that it got stronger. I could feel you, your emotions, your fear when your father raised his voice at dinner, your relief when you slipped outside to run alone in the woods." Her breath caught. You felt all of that?" "Not details, just echoes." He paused. "Enough to know you were suffering." The admission cracked something open inside her. She'd spent 3 days running, 3 days convinced he was the threat, and he'd been trying to let her go from the beginning, but that didn't change what he was, what he represented. "That doesn't make it better," she said, though her voice shook. "You're still a king. You still have absolute authority over your pack, over anyone tied to you." "I know what you think of me." His jaw tightened. "What you've heard. Then you know why I can't go back." "I'm not him, Sera." Her name and his voice made her shiver. She hated that it did. "My father said the same thing to my mother once." The words tasted bitter. Before the bond settled, before he had what he wanted, after that, she swallowed hard. After that, she stopped smiling, stopped speaking, unless he asked her a question. She used to sing while she worked. "Did you know that?" "I barely remember it now." The Alpha King's expression darkened. Not with anger, but something deeper, something that looked almost like grief. "She's still alive," Sera continued. Her hands were trembling now. "Still breathing, still functioning. But the woman she was, that person disappeared piece by piece, and no one did anything to stop it, because he was her mate and the pack beta, and no one questions that bond. I would never—" "You don't know that." She cut him off, voice breaking. "You can't promise that. The bond makes us, it changes things. What if you decide I'm wrong about something? What if your wolf takes over and you... She couldn't finish. He stood very still. The morning light caught the gold in his eyes. Not a flash this time, but a steady glow. What if I gave you my word? He asked quietly. Words don't mean anything. Then what would? She stared at him. The question felt genuine. Not a manipulation or a trap, but an actual plea for understanding. The bond pulled tighter. She could feel his heart beat again, steady and strong, and beneath it, something else. Something that felt like ache. He was hurting too. The realization made her anger falter. I don't know, she admitted. Her voice came out small, tired. I don't know if anything would be enough. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then his head snapped to the side. His whole body went rigid. What? Quiet. The command was soft but absolute. Sera froze. Her pulse kicked up, instinct screaming at her to run even as the bond flared with sudden urgency. He was afraid. Not of her, but for her. How many? She whispered. His eyes narrowed, focused on something she couldn't see beyond the temple entrance. 6. Maybe 7. Your trackers? No. His voice dropped lower. Dangerous. Blackridge Pack. Her blood went cold. Blackridge wolves were notorious. Mercenaries who hired themselves out to anyone willing to pay. Brutal and efficient. They're tracking you, he said, not a question. How would they even know? Someone told them. His gaze cut back to her. Someone who knew you ran, who knew you'd be alone. Understanding hit like a fist to the gut. Her father. He must have. He wouldn't. Except he absolutely would. If he thought she'd embarrassed him by fleeing, if he wanted to teach her a lesson about obedience. They'll kill me, she breathed. No. The Alpha King's voice turned to steel. They won't. You can't fight 7 wolves alone. I'm not alone. He moved then, not toward her, but between her and the entrance, positioning himself as a shield. And I'm not just any wolf. The bond surged. She felt his determination, his absolute certainty, and beneath it, something primal and possessive. His wolf had decided. She was his to protect, even if she didn't want to be. The first howl cut through the morning air. Close. Too close. Sera's stomach dropped. The Alpha King didn't move, didn't even flinch, but she felt his pulse spike through the bond, felt the sharp edge of his calculation. Inside, he said. Now. She didn't argue. They backed into the temple together. His body still between her and the entrance, her feet finding purchase on crumbled stone. The interior was darker, cooler. Shadows pooled in corners where the roof had caved in decades ago. Another howl answered the first. Then a third. They were coordinating. The lower chamber, he said quietly. There's a passage, old worship space. It'll hide your scent better than this. And trap us, or give us an advantage. His eyes flicked to hers. Still gold. Still steady. I know this temple. They don't. She wanted to ask how he knew, why he'd been here before. But footsteps crunched outside, boots on gravel, and there wasn't time. He moved first, led her deeper into the ruin, past fallen columns and shattered mosaics, to a narrow opening in the floor she never would have seen on her own. Stone steps descended into blackness. Go! Sera hesitated. Every instinct screamed that going down was a trap, that she'd be cornered, helpless. But the voices outside were getting closer. Rough laughter. The scrape of claws on stone. She went. The steps were steep and uneven. She had to feel her way down, one hand on the damp wall, the other reaching into nothing. Behind her, she heard him follow, heard the soft rasp of his breath. Then his hand closed around her wrist. Not rough, just there, steadying her. The bond flared. Heat raced up her arm and straight into her chest. She nearly stumbled. "Careful," he murmured. His voice was so close it brushed her ear. 3 more steps. She counted them. Her boots hit flat ground. The air down here was colder, heavy with the smell of earth and old incense. She couldn't see anything, not even her own hands. But she could feel him, right behind her, solid and warm and impossibly calm. "They'll search the upper level first," he said quietly. "When they find nothing, they'll either leave or dig deeper. If they dig, you'll have to fight." "Yes," she turned toward his voice. Still couldn't see him. "You said there were 6, maybe 7. I know. You can't." "I can." His tone didn't waver. "I've done it before." Sera wanted to call him arrogant, reckless. But the bond didn't lie. He wasn't boasting. He was stating fact. Why? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Why risk this? "You could leave me here. Tell them you lost my trail. Go back to your territory and—" "No, you don't even know me." Silence, heavy and thick. Then his hand found hers in the dark, not gripping, just touching, palm to palm. His skin was rough, warm. "I know enough," he said. Her throat tightened. The bond pulled so hard it hurt. She wanted to pull away, wanted to prove she didn't need this, didn't need him. But above them, something crashed. Boots on stone. A shout. They'd entered the temple. The Alpha King's hand tightened just slightly around hers, not restraining, reassuring. "Stay quiet," he whispered, "no matter what you hear. What if they find the passage? Then you run. There's a tunnel at the back of this chamber. It leads east, toward the river. You follow it, and you don't look back." "What about you?" "I'll buy you time." Anger flared hot in her chest. "I didn't ask you to die for me." "I know." His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "Just once." "But I'm not asking your permission." She wanted to argue, wanted to shove him and call him a fool and demand he stop acting like her life mattered more than his. But the bond betrayed her, because she could feel it now. The truth he wouldn't say out loud. He was afraid. Not of the Black Ridge wolves. Not of the fight. He was afraid of failing her. The realization stole her breath, made her chest ache in a way that had nothing to do with physical pain. "You don't owe me this," she whispered. "I know." "Then why?" For a moment he didn't answer. Above them the voices grew louder, closer. Someone kicked over a piece of rubble. Swore. Then his forehead touched hers. Gentle. Deliberate. "Because the bond isn't just pulling me toward you," he said quietly. "It's showing me who you are. And I won't let them take you." Her eyes burned. She didn't know if it was fear or something else entirely. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me." His breath ghosted across her lips. Warm. Steady. "Too late," he murmured. "I already am." Above them, a voice rang out. Sharp. Commanding. "Check below." The Alpha King's hand slipped from hers. She heard him move, positioning himself between her and the passage entrance, and the bond screamed. This was going to get bloody. Footsteps hammered overhead. Stone scraped against stone. She pressed her back against the cold wall of the chamber and counted the voices. 3, no, 4, maybe 5. Too many. The Alpha King stood at the mouth of the passage, his body a wall between her and whoever was coming. His shoulders were locked tight, his breathing controlled. But she could feel the shift starting, the wolf rising beneath his skin. His control was slipping. "Move back," he said without turning. She didn't. "I said move." "No." His head turned slightly, just enough that she caught the glow in his eyes, gold bleeding into the darkness. "This isn't a debate." "You're right. It's not." She stepped forward, closer to him, closer to the danger. "You're not dying alone down here because I was too afraid to stand with you. You think standing with me will change the outcome? I think you're outnumbered and I'm not useless." "I never said you were." "Then stop treating me like I need to hide." Above them, something heavy crashed. A beam. A section of the floor. Dust and splinters rained down through the cracks in the ceiling. A voice cut through the chaos. Male. Rough. "There's a passage here. Carved stone. Still fresh." Another voice. Younger. "Think they went down?" "Only one way to find out." The Alpha King's hand moved to the knife at his belt. Slowly. Deliberately. "When they come through that opening," he said quietly, "you stay behind me. You don't fight. You don't argue. You run the second I tell you to." "I'm not." "You will." His voice dropped lower, harder. "Because if you don't, if they get past me and take you, I'll lose more than this fight. Do you understand?" Her throat closed. The bond pulsed between them, thick and desperate. She understood. He wasn't just protecting her out of duty or instinct. He was protecting the part of himself that had already attached to her, the part that would shatter if she was taken. "I can help," she whispered. "I know you can." "Then let me." "Not like this." Before she could argue, a shadow dropped through the opening above. Heavy boots hit stone. A body followed, then another. The first wolf stepped into the passage. Tall, broad-shouldered. His eyes glowed amber in the darkness. He smiled when he saw them. "Well," he drawled, "look what we found." The Alpha King didn't move, didn't speak. The second wolf stepped up beside the first. Smaller, faster. His gaze locked on her and his grin widened. "That's her, the one they're looking for." "Funny," the first wolf said. "Looks like someone already found her." The Alpha King's voice came out low, steady. "Turn around, walk away, forget you saw us." The first wolf laughed. "That's not how this works, brother." "I'm not your brother?" "No, you're just a king without a kingdom." The wolf tilted his head. "And she's just a runaway with a bounty on her head." Her pulse spiked. "What bounty?" "You didn't know?" The wolf's smile sharpened. "Your old pack wants you back. Badly. 500 marks to whoever delivers you, alive and unharmed." Her stomach twisted. The Alpha King's shoulders tightened. "She's under my protection." "Your protection doesn't mean much outside your borders." "It means everything inside this temple. This temple isn't yours." "It is now." The first wolf's grin faded. His eyes narrowed. "You really want to die over some girl you just met?" "I want you to leave before you make me do something we'll both regret." The second wolf stepped forward. His hand moved to his belt. "There's two of us. One of you." "The girl doesn't look like much of a fighter." The Alpha King's voice dropped to a growl. "You have 3 seconds. Or what? Or I stop being polite." The first wolf's hand shot toward the blade at his hip. The Alpha King moved, faster than she thought possible. His body blurred. His hand caught the wolf's wrist mid-draw and twisted hard. Bone cracked. The wolf screamed. The second wolf lunged. She moved without thinking. Her hand shot out, and something inside her broke open. Heat surged through her veins, white-hot and blinding. Her palms slammed into the air between them, and light erupted from her skin. Not fire, not lightning, magic. The second wolf flew backward. His body hit the stone wall with a sickening crunch. He slumped to the ground and didn't move. The first wolf stared at her, eyes wide, breathing ragged. The Alpha King released his wrist and stepped back. His gaze locked on her, shocked, confused. "You're a wielder," he said quietly. She couldn't speak. Her hand was still glowing. Still burning, the first wolf scrambled backward. "This isn't over." "Yes," the Alpha King said. "It is." The wolf turned and bolted up through the passage. His footsteps faded fast. Silence crashed down around them. The Alpha King took a slow step toward her, his eyes still glowing, still fixed on her face. "You've been hiding this," she nodded. "Why?" "Because it's dangerous. It just saved our lives. It also just painted a target on my back." Her voice shook. "If word gets out, if anyone finds out what I can do, they'll want to use you." "Yes." He moved closer. His hand reached for hers, stopped. "Is that why you ran?" She looked at him. Really looked at him. And then she told him the truth. The second wolf's body still lay against the far wall, not moving. She stared at her hand. The glow was fading. The heat was still there, burning just under her skin. The Alpha King stood 3 feet away, watching her. His eyes hadn't left her face. She couldn't breathe properly. Her chest felt too tight. Her throat closed around words that wouldn't come. "How long have you had it?" he asked quietly. She swallowed. "Since I was 12. "And no one knew?" "My mother knew. She made me promise to never use it." Her voice cracked. She said people would kill for power like mine. He nodded slowly. She was right. The words hit harder than she expected. She pulled her hand against her chest. The heat was fading now. The light was gone. But the fear was still there. Sharp and cold. "Is that why you ran?" he asked again. She looked up at him. His face was steady, calm. But his eyes were full of something she couldn't name. "Part of it," she whispered. "And the other part?" "I told you, I didn't want to be claimed. But it's more than that." She turned away. Her legs were shaking. She walked to the far wall and pressed her back against the stone. The cold helped, grounded her. He didn't follow. He stayed where he was, waiting. She closed her eyes. "My father was pack enforcer. He controlled everything. Who I spoke to, where I went, what I wore." Her voice dropped. "He said it was protection. He said he was keeping me safe." The Alpha King said nothing. She opened her eyes. "When I turned 18, he tried to choose my mate for me, someone loyal to him, someone he could control through me." "What happened?" "I refused. He locked me in our house for 2 weeks. Her hands curled into fists. "My mother finally convinced him to let me out, but he never forgave me. Never stopped watching." The bond flared in her chest, warm and insistent. She hated it. "When I felt the bond snap into place 3 days ago." She looked at him. "All I could think was that it was happening again, that I'd lose myself to someone else's will." His jaw tightened. "I'm not your father. You're a king. Yes, you give orders and people obey. Yes, you could force me to stay." His eyes darkened. "I could, but I won't." "Why not?" Her voice rose. "Why let me run? Why follow me out here? Why not just use the bond and drag me back?" He took 1 step forward, then stopped. His hands flexed at his sides. "Because I know what it's like to have no choice." She stared at him. "I was born into this," he said quietly. "The crown, the pack, the responsibility. I didn't choose any of it." His voice roughened. "I've spent my entire life being what everyone else needed me to be. I won't do that to you." The bond pulsed. Her heartbeat echoed in her chest, and she felt his answer back. Steady, sure. "But I do need you," he continued. Not just because of the bond, because of what you can do. She shook her head. I can't control it. You just did. That was panic. That was power. He moved closer, slowly. The kind of power that could turn a war. Her stomach dropped. What war? The one that's coming. His voice was grim. The Eastern Pacts have been moving toward our borders for months. They're organized, trained, and they have something we don't. What? Magic. She pressed harder against the wall. I can't fight a war. I'm not asking you to fight. He stopped 2 feet away. I'm asking you to help me protect my people. By doing what? By being what you are. His gaze held hers. A wielder. A weapon they won't see coming. Her throat tightened. You want to use me. I want to work with you. His voice softened. There's a difference. She wanted to believe him. The bond was screaming at her to trust him, to step forward, to let him in. But her father's voice was still in her head. You're mine. You'll do what I say. It's for your own good. The Alpha King's eyes searched her face. I know you're afraid. I'm not afraid. The lie tasted bitter. Yes, you are. He didn't look away. And you have every right to be. She didn't expect that. I'm asking you to trust me, he said quietly. And I know I haven't earned it yet, but I will. How? By proving it. Every day. For as long as it takes. The bond flared again. Warmer this time. She hated how much she wanted to believe him. If I go back with you, her voice shook. If I help you, I need your word. What word? That I'm not your possession, that I have a choice. Always. His eyes glowed faint gold in the dim light. You have my word. Say it out loud. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, close enough that the bond sang between them. You are not my possession, he said clearly. You will never be a prisoner, and you will always have a choice. She searched his face, looking for the lie. She didn't find one. Okay, she whispered. His shoulders dropped. Relief washed over his features. Okay, she nodded. I'll come back. I'll help. She lifted her chin. But on my terms. A slow smile curved his mouth. I wouldn't have it any other way. The Alpha King didn't move toward the entrance yet. He stayed where he was, 2 feet from her, close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw. We have a few minutes, he said quietly. Maybe less. She pressed her back against the cold stone. Her pulse was still racing. The bond hummed between them like a live wire. Why are you really here? She asked. His brow furrowed. What? You found me 3 days ago. You could have dragged me back. You didn't. She met his eyes. Why? He was silent for a moment. Then he exhaled slowly. Because I didn't want you to hate me. The honesty in his voice hit harder than she expected. I'm an Alpha King, he continued. I've made a lot of hard choices. Some of them were cruel. Some of them I'd make again. He paused. But forcing you back, that would have been the kind of mistake I couldn't undo. She stared at him. You're telling me you let me run because you were afraid I'd resent you? Yes. That's not very kingly. A faint smile tugged at his mouth. No, it's not. She didn't know what to say to that. He shifted his weight. His gaze dropped to the floor. My father was a good king. Strong, respected. But he ruled through fear. His pack obeyed him because they had no choice. She watched him carefully. When he died, I swore I'd be different. His voice was rough. I wanted loyalty that wasn't built on terror. I wanted people who stayed because they believed in what we were building. And did you get that? Most of the time. He looked up at her. But it's harder than ruling through fear. It takes longer. And sometimes, people think it makes me weak." She felt a pang in her chest. She knew what that was like. To want freedom and be seen as fragile because of it. "You're not weak," she said before she could stop herself. His eyes flicked to hers. Surprise crossed his face. "You're not," she repeated. "Weak would have been dragging me back in chains and calling it protection." He didn't answer, but something shifted in his expression, something that made her pulse skip. "Why did you run from your father?" he asked softly. Her throat tightened. She hadn't expected him to ask. "You said you knew what it was like to be controlled," he continued. "What did he do?" She crossed her arms over her chest. "He made every choice for me. Who I saw, where I went, what I was allowed to say." Her voice wavered. "He told me it was love, that he was protecting me." The Alpha King's jaw tightened. "When I turned 18, I tried to leave." She swallowed hard. "He locked me in my room for 3 days, told the pack I was sick, told me I didn't know what was good for me." His hands curled into fists at his sides. "I got out eventually," she said. "I stayed quiet, played the part, and then one night I just left. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't look back." "How long ago?" 2 years. He was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "I'm sorry," she blinked. "For what?" "For every time I've said something that reminded you of him." Her chest ached. She hadn't expected that either. "I'm not him," the Alpha King said firmly. "I won't be." "I know." The words slipped out before she could think. "I mean, I'm starting to know." His gaze softened. She looked away. Her hands were trembling. "This bond, it makes it hard to think clearly." "I know. I keep feeling like I should trust you. Like I want to trust you." She shook her head. "But I don't know if that's me or just the bond pulling me toward you." He took a slow breath. "It's both." She glanced up. "The bond doesn't create feelings," he said quietly. "It amplifies what's already there. It makes everything sharper, stronger." His eyes held hers. "But if you didn't want to trust me at all, the bond wouldn't change that." She didn't know if that made her feel better or worse. "I don't want a mate who stays because she has no choice," he said. "I don't want someone who's afraid of me. I don't want—" He trailed off. His voice dropped. "I don't want to be the kind of alpha my father was." She saw the fear in his eyes then, the same fear she'd been carrying. He was afraid of becoming a monster, just like she was afraid of being caged again. "You're not your father," she said softly. His throat worked. "How do you know?" "Because you're standing here asking me to choose, not telling me what to do." He exhaled slowly. Relief flickered across his face. The voices above grew louder, closer. He straightened. His expression shifted. The vulnerability vanished. The Alpha King was back. "We need to move," he said. "Stay behind me." She nodded. But before he turned toward the passage, she reached out. Her fingers brushed his wrist. He froze. "Thank you," she whispered, "for telling me." His eyes met hers. Gold flickered in their depths. "Always," he said. Then he moved toward the entrance. His body tense. "Ready." And she followed. The passage above exploded inward. Stone dust filled the air. She stumbled back, choking. The Alpha King's arm shot out, pushing her behind him. 3 figures dropped through the opening. Wolves. Shifted halfway, claws extended, eyes burning amber. The lead male grinned. His teeth were too sharp. His voice came out rough, half growl. "Alpha King," he said mockingly. "All alone. How? Unfortunate." She felt the Alpha King's body coil, his wolf rising fast. "Leave now," he said, "and I'll let you walk away." The male laughed. The other 2 fanned out, circling. "We didn't come for you," the male said. His gaze slid to her. "We came for the female." Her stomach dropped. "She's unclaimed," the male continued. "Fair game." The Alpha King's growl shook the chamber. "She's mine." Gold light flared in his eyes, his canines lengthened. Claws burst from his fingertips. The rival wolves lunged. He met them head-on. The impact rattled her bones. Claws raked stone. Snarls filled the air. She pressed back against the wall, heart hammering. The Alpha King moved like a storm. Fast. Brutal. Controlled. He caught the first wolf by the throat and slammed him into the ground. Spun and blocked the second strike with his forearm. But the third circled behind. She saw the opening, the exposed flank. "Behind you!" she screamed. He twisted, but not fast enough. Claws tore across his ribs. He staggered. The rival wolf lunged again. And something inside her snapped. Heat surged through her chest. Not the bond. Something older. Deeper. Magic. The air around her shimmered. Her hands moved without thought. She thrust them forward. Light exploded from her palms. A shimmering barrier erupted between the Alpha King and the attacking wolf. The rival slammed into it and bounced back with a yelp. All four males froze. Staring at her, she stared at her own hands, still glowing faintly. No. She'd sworn she'd never use it again. The Alpha King's eyes were wide, shocked, but not angry. The rival wolves recovered first. A magic wielder, the lead male hissed. Even better. They lunged again. All three at once. The Alpha King roared. He caught one mid-leap and threw him into the wall. Blocked another strike. But the third broke through, straight toward her. She didn't think. She just raised her hands. The barrier flared again, stronger this time. The wolf hit it hard, claws scrabbling, snarling. She gritted her teeth, held it. The magic burned through her veins. Hot. Wild. She'd forgotten how it felt, how much it cost. Her knees buckled. The barrier flickered. "Hold on," the Alpha King snarled. He grabbed the wolf, clawing at her shield, and ripped him back. Slammed him into the ground. Didn't let go until the rival went limp. The other two scrambled to their feet. Blood streaked their fur. The lead male's eyes darted between her and the Alpha King. Calculating. Then he turned and bolted. The second followed. Their footsteps echoed up the passage. Fading fast. Silence crashed down. She let the barrier drop. Her hands fell. The light died. Her legs gave out. He caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy," he murmured. "I've got you." She sagged against him, her whole body trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to. I shouldn't have." "You saved my life." She looked up. His face was inches away. Blood streaked his jaw. His shirt torn open across his ribs. But his eyes, they were soft. Odd. "You're a magic wielder," he said quietly. She flinched. I don't use it. I haven't in years." "Why not?" "Because it's dangerous. Because people fear it. Because my father," she swallowed hard. "He tried to use me, to control it, control me." The Alpha King's jaw tightened. "He's not here." "I know, and I'm not him." She nodded shakily. His hand came up, fingers brushing her temple. Feather light. "That power," he said softly. "It's yours, no one else's, not mine, not anyone's." Her throat closed. "You don't have to hide it," he continued. "Not anymore." Tears burned her eyes. She blinked them back. "I've spent so long trying to be invisible," she whispered. "Trying to be nothing." "You're not nothing." His voice was firm, steady. You're everything. The bond flared between them. Warm. Aching. She wanted to believe him. She wanted it so badly it terrified her. "The war," he said quietly. "The one I told you about." She tensed. "The enemy uses blood magic, dark magic. We've lost every battle because we can't counter it." His eyes held hers. "But you could." Her breath caught. "I'm not asking you to fight," he said quickly. "I'm not asking you to be a weapon. But if you came back with me, if you stood with us, you could teach others. Shield our people. Turn the tide." She stared at him. "You're the key," he said. "Not because you're my mate, because of what you can do." Her heart pounded. "Come back with me," he said. "Not as my possession, not as someone I own. As my equal, my partner." His hand slid to her cheek, cradling her face. "Help me save our world," he whispered, "and I'll spend the rest of my life proving you were right to trust me." She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. But the bond hummed between them, and beneath it, beneath everything, she felt her own heart answering. She could feel her answer in the marrow of her bones before the words reached her lips. The bond pulsed between them, warm, insistent. But this time, it wasn't pulling her toward him. It was pushing her toward herself. "I'll come back with you," she said. His eyes lit, relief flooding his face. "But on my terms." The light dimmed. Just slightly. He didn't let go of her face. Didn't pull away. "Tell me," he said quietly. She swallowed hard, her heart hammering against her ribs. "You said you want me as your equal, as your partner." "I meant it." "Then prove it." His thumb brushed her cheekbone, a question in the touch. "When we return to your territory," she said, voice steadier now, "you'll introduce me as an ally first, a magic wielder who's come to help with the war, not as my mate." "Not yet." His jaw tightened, but he nodded. "I need time," she continued. "Time to know you. Time to know this bond without the weight of your entire pack watching, judging." "All right." "And I want my own space, my own quarters, not yours." His hand fell from her face, not angry, just careful. "You think I'd force you into my bed?" "No." She met his eyes. "But I think your people would expect it, and I need them to see me as something other than the female their king claimed." He was silent for a long moment. Then he exhaled slowly. "You'll have your own quarters," he said. "At the far end of the main hall. Private. Guarded if you want. Or not." Relief loosened something in her chest. "And the bond?" he asked quietly. She hesitated. "I'm not rejecting it," she said. "I'm just not ready to complete it. Not until I'm sure." "Sure of what?" "That you want me for me. Not because fate decided." His eyes darkened. Not with anger. With something deeper. "I can't undo the bond," he said. "Can't make it disappear so you'll believe my feelings are real. I know. But I can wait." Her breath caught. "I can give you time," he continued. "Space. Proof. Whatever you need." His voice dropped lower. "Because you're right. I do want you. But not just because some ancient magic tied us together." He stepped closer. "I want the woman who ran 3 days through hostile territory, rather than surrender her freedom. The one who covered herself in mud and ash to hide, who stood against me in the ruins and refused to submit." His hand lifted again, hovering near her face but not touching. "I want the woman who just saved my life with magic she's terrified of, who's brave enough to name her terms even when she's shaking." Her eyes stung. "So yes," he said. "I'll wait, as long as it takes." She nodded, unable to speak. "But there's one thing I need from you," he added. She tensed. "When we face the elders, when the pack questions why you're there, I need you to stand with me, publicly. I just said I don't want to be introduced as your mate. You won't be, but they'll know. They'll feel the bond the moment we walk in together." He was right. She knew he was. Some of them will challenge it, he continued. They'll say you're a threat, an outsider, that I'm compromised. Are you? Yes. The honesty startled her. I'm compromised, he said. Because I'll burn the world down before I let anyone hurt you. But that doesn't mean I'll let them control you either. His eyes held hers. I need you to show them you're choosing this. That you're here because you want to be, not because I dragged you back. Her pulse raced. If I stand with you, she said slowly, they'll assume I've submitted, that I'm yours. Then correct them. What? Correct them. His voice was firm. Every single time. You have a voice. Use it. Something fierce bloomed in her chest. I'll stand with you, she said. I'll help you fight this war. I'll teach your people what I know about magic. She straightened, meeting his gaze fully. But if anyone tries to claim I'm property, yours or anyone else's, I'll show them exactly what this magic can do. A slow smile curved his lips. Not a smirk. Not arrogance. Pride. Fair enough, he said. He stepped back, giving her space. We should move soon, he added, before more trackers come. She nodded. Her legs still shook. Her hands still trembled. But something inside her had shifted. She wasn't running anymore. She was choosing. One more thing, she said. He waited. The claiming bond. When I'm ready, if I'm ever ready. Yes? I want it to be mutual. Not just you marking me. Both of us. His eyes flared. Gold bleeding into the edges. That's not how it's usually done. I know. The female accepts the male's mark. That's tradition. I don't care about tradition. Silence stretched between them. Then he smiled again, wider this time. Neither do I. He offered his hand. Not a command, not a demand, an invitation. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she reached out. Her fingers slid into his. His grip was warm, steady. The bond hummed. Satisfied. Let's go home, he said quietly. And for the first time in 3 days, she didn't feel the urge to run. They moved through the forest as dawn spread thin light across the canopy. Her hand stayed in his for the first 100 paces. Then she let go. Not out of fear, out of need to move on her own terms. He didn't reach for her again. He kept pace beside her instead, close enough that she felt the warmth radiating from his body, far enough that she could breathe. The bond hummed between them, steady now, no longer pulling, just present, like a thread she could follow back if she wanted, or ignore if she needed space. She preferred it that way. They walked in silence for a while. The forest still smelled of ash and old stone. The temple ruins faded behind them. The path ahead wound downward through pine and birch. How far? She asked. 2 days on foot. Less if we shift. I'm not shifting. He glanced at her. No judgment in his eyes, just acknowledgement. Then 2 days. She nodded. Her legs already ached. Her body still carried the exhaustion of 3 days running. But she'd manage. She always did. Your people, she said after another stretch of quiet. The ones who'll challenge me. What do they know? That you ran, that I went after you, that I came back with you. And the magic. They know something happened at the temple. The scouts felt it. They'll have questions. What will you tell them? He was quiet for a moment, weighing his words. The truth, he said finally, that you're a magic wielder, that you saved both our lives, that we need you. And the bond? That too. She bristled. I thought we agreed. I won't introduce you as my mate, he cut in gently. But I won't lie either. The bond is there. They'll feel it. Denying it won't protect you. It'll just make them think I'm trying to hide something. He was right. She hated that he was right. So what do I say when they ask? Whatever you want. She shot him a look. That's not helpful. It's honest. He met her gaze. You're not a politician. You're not a diplomat. You don't have to navigate court games." His voice softened. "Just tell them the truth. That you're here because you chose it. That the bond exists, but it doesn't define you. And if they don't believe me, then you prove it." Her chest tightened. "How?" "By being exactly who you are." He stopped walking, turned to face her fully. "You stood up to me. You set your terms. You demanded autonomy from a king." His eyes held hers. "If you can do that with me, you can do it with anyone." Something warm unfurled in her chest. Not the bond. Something deeper. Belief. He believed she could do this. She wasn't sure she believed it herself. But his certainty steadied her. "Okay," she said quietly. They kept walking. The sun climbed higher. The forest grew warmer. She shed the cloak he'd given her and tied it around her waist. The mud had dried on her skin, flaking off in pieces. She probably looked like she'd crawled out of a grave. She didn't care. "There's a stream ahead," he said after another hour, "if you want to clean up before we reach the border." She did. Badly. "Will there be scouts?" "Probably. Will they try to stop me?" "No." His voice was firm. "I sent word ahead. They know you're with me." "That doesn't mean they'll trust me." "No," he agreed. "It doesn't." At least he wasn't pretending this would be easy. They reached the stream just before midday. It was narrow but clear, cold water rushing over smooth stones. She knelt at the edge and splashed, her face. The mud dissolved in dark swirls. She scrubbed her arms, her neck, her hands. When she looked up, he was standing a few paces away, watching the tree line, giving her space but staying alert, always protecting. Even when she didn't ask, she wasn't sure how to feel about that. "Thank you," she said. He glanced back. "For what? For not making this harder than it has to be." His expression softened. "I'm trying." "I know." She stood, shook the water from her hands. Her clothes were still filthy, but her skin felt better. Less like she was hiding, more like herself. "We should keep moving," he said. She nodded. They crossed the stream together. The water was cold enough to steal her breath. He offered his hand at the deepest part. She took it. Just for balance. On the other side, she let go again. He didn't comment. The forest began to change as they walked. The trees grew taller, the underbrush thicker. She recognized the scent in the air. Pine and earth, and something wilder. Pack territory. Her pulse quickened. "How close?" she asked. "Close." She felt it then. Eyes in the shadows. Watchers. Scouts who'd caught their scent and were tracking them. He must have felt it too because his posture shifted. Not aggressive, just ready. "Stay close," he murmured. For once, she didn't argue. A figure stepped onto the path ahead. Male. Tall. Dark hair and sharp eyes. He dipped his head in deference, but his gaze locked onto her. Assessing. Wary. "My king," the scout said. "Torin." The Alpha King's voice was calm. "Is the way clear?" "It is." Torin's eyes didn't leave her. "The council is waiting." Her stomach dropped. The Alpha King's hand brushed hers. Just a whisper of contact. A reminder. She wasn't alone. "Then let's not keep them waiting," he said. The walk through the forest felt different now that they'd crossed the border. Heavier, like the trees themselves were watching. She kept her chin up even though her stomach twisted with every step. More scouts appeared as they moved deeper into the territory. Silent figures between the pines. None approached, but all of them stared. At her, she wanted to shrink back, to hide behind him. But that would prove them right, that she was weak, that she didn't belong. So she walked beside the Alpha King instead. Not behind, not in front. The side. His presence steadied her, even when his expression gave nothing away. The trees began to thin. Buildings appeared through the gaps, stone and timber structures that blended into the landscape. Smoke rose from chimneys. Voices carried on the wind. This was his home. And now, hers? Her breath caught. No, not hers. Not yet. Maybe never. She was here to help. That was all. The path widened into a clearing, a central courtyard where pack members gathered, training, talking, living. They all stopped when they saw him. When they saw her. The silence pressed down like a weight. She forced herself to keep walking, to meet their stares without flinching. The Alpha King's hand brushed hers again, just for a second, a reminder. My king. An older woman stepped forward. Her hair was silver, but her posture was strong, unyielding. You've returned. I have. His voice carried across the courtyard, clear, commanding. And I've brought help. Help. Not mate. The word choice wasn't accidental. The woman's gaze shifted to her, sharp, assessing. This is the one we've heard about. It wasn't a question. She is, he confirmed. Her name is Sera. She's a magic wielder, rare, powerful, and she's agreed to stand with us against the coming threat. Murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd. Sera. He'd finally said her name aloud, claimed it for everyone to hear. It felt significant. A magic wielder, the woman repeated slowly. Her tone was neutral, but her eyes gleamed with curiosity. We haven't had one in generations. No, he agreed. We haven't. Another figure pushed through the crowd, male, younger. His expression was skeptical. And we're just supposed to trust her? Because you brought her here? The Alpha King's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. You trust me. That should be enough. With respect, my king. The man's tone said he had none. Trust has to be earned. Sera's pulse hammered, but she stepped forward before she could second-guess herself. You're right, she said. The man blinked. Clearly he hadn't expected agreement. I haven't earned your trust yet, she continued. Her voice was steady even though her hands wanted to shake. But I'm not asking you to take me at my word. I'm asking for a chance to prove myself. The crowd was silent now, listening. War is coming, she said. You all know it. You can feel it. And I can help. Not because I owe you anything. Not because I'm... She hesitated. Not because of bonds or fate, but because it's the right thing to do. She glanced at the Alpha King. His expression was unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes. Pride, maybe, or hope. I'll stand with you, she said. On my terms. As an ally, not a possession. The silence stretched. Then the silver-haired woman nodded slowly. Fair enough. The skeptical man didn't look convinced, but he stepped back. The Alpha King's hand found the small of her back. Just for a heartbeat. Then he addressed the crowd again. Sera will have her own quarters, he said. His tone left no room for argument. She's to be treated as an honored guest, and anyone who disrespects her answers to me. The message was clear. Touch her, and you'll regret it. Sera's throat tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. The crowd began to disperse. Slowly. Reluctantly. But they dispersed. The silver-haired woman lingered. I'm Marin, she said. The king's second, if you need anything. Thank you, Sera said quietly. Marin's gaze flicked between them, assessing. Then she nodded and walked away. When they were alone, or as alone as they could be in a courtyard full of watchful eyes, the Alpha King turned to her. You did well, he said. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. His voice was soft. You could have stayed silent. Let me handle it. That's not who I am. His mouth curved. Just slightly. I know. The bond hummed between them. Warm, steady. She was still afraid, still uncertain. But for the first time since this started, she felt like maybe she could do this. Maybe she could stand beside him without losing herself. "Come on," he said. "I'll show you your quarters." She followed him through the compound, past curious stares and whispered conversations. Her own space, her own terms. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And for now, that was enough. The quarters he gave her weren't what she expected. She'd braced for something small, tucked away. A room that said guest but felt like cage. Instead, he led her to a stone building on the eastern edge of the compound, separate from the main hall, surrounded by gardens that had gone wild but still bloomed. "It was my mother's," he said quietly. Kira stopped in the doorway. The space was simple but warm. A wide bed piled with furs, a fireplace already crackling, tall windows that let in the afternoon light. She turned to him. "I can't." "You can." His voice was firm. "She would have liked you." The words settled in her chest, heavy and sweet. "No one's lived here in years," he continued, "but Marin aired it out this morning. There's a bath through that door, fresh clothes in the trunk." Kira's throat tightened. She hadn't expected kindness. "Not like this." "Thank you," she managed. He nodded once, then hesitated. She could feel the bond pulling at him, urging him closer. But he stayed where he was, just inside the threshold. "I'll leave you to rest," he said. "Wait." He stopped. She didn't know what she wanted to say, only that she wasn't ready for him to leave yet. "Will they challenge me again?" she asked. Probably. His honesty was almost reassuring. Not everyone will accept this arrangement. "And you?" His gaze sharpened. "What about me? Do you accept it?" The question hung between them. He stepped closer, slowly, like he was afraid she'd bolt. "I told you before," he said. "I don't want a mate who stays out of duty. But the bond doesn't own me." His voice was low, rough. "And it doesn't own you." She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that this could work, that she could stand beside him without being swallowed whole. "I'm still afraid," she admitted. "I know. And I don't know if I'll ever be ready for. I'm not asking you to be." He reached out, slowly, his hand hovering near her face. "I'm asking you to trust that I'll wait." Her breath caught. She could feel the heat of his palm, close enough to touch, but not quite. "How long?" she whispered. His mouth curved, just slightly. "As long as it takes." The bond flared, warm and insistent. But he didn't move. Didn't close the distance. He was proving it. Right here. Right now. She lifted her hand, let her fingers brush his wrist. His pulse jumped under her touch. "Thank you," she said again. This time it meant more. He nodded, then stepped back. "Rest," he said. "I'll send someone with food." "You don't have to." "I know." His gaze held hers. "But I want to." Then he was gone. Kira stood in the doorway for a long moment, listening to his footsteps fade. The bond hummed in her chest. Quieter now, but still there. She crossed to the window, looked out over the compound. People moved below, going about their evening routines. Some glanced toward her building, curious, wary. She didn't blame them. She was an outsider, a disruption, a woman who'd refused the bond and demanded her own terms. But she was also standing here, in quarters that had belonged to a queen. That had to mean something. A knock sounded at the door. Kira turned. "Come in." Marin entered, carrying a tray of bread and stew. "The king said you'd be hungry," she said. Kira's lips twitched. "Did he?" Marin set the tray on the low table near the fire, then straightened. "You surprised him today," she said. "Is that a good thing?" "Depends." Marin's gaze was sharp, assessing. "He's a good king. Fair, strong. But he's been alone a long time. Kira frowned. He has his pack. Not the same. Marin's voice softened. Just slightly. He needs someone who'll stand beside him, not behind him. And you think that's me? I think... Marin paused, choosing her words carefully. I think you scare him. And that's exactly what he needs. Kira blinked. Marin's mouth curved. Eat. Rest. Tomorrow will be harder. Then she was gone too. Kira sank onto the edge of the bed. Her whole body ached. Days of running, hiding, fighting. But beneath the exhaustion, something else stirred. Hope. Fragile and uncertain, but real. She ate slowly. The stew was rich and warm. The bread fresh. When she finished, she moved to the window again. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Somewhere out there, war was coming, an enemy she couldn't name yet, a threat she'd have to face. But tonight, she was safe. Tonight she had her own space, her own terms, and a king who'd promised to wait. The bond pulsed softly in her chest. She didn't fight it this time, just let it settle. Warm and steady. Tomorrow she'd prove herself, face the doubters, begin the work of earning their trust. But tonight she'd rest, and let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. She pulled the furs around her shoulders, breathed in the scent of wood smoke and wild herbs, and for the first time in days, she slept without fear. Kira woke to voices below her window. Raised, angry. She pushed the furs aside and crossed to the glass. Dawn light spilled pale across the compound. A crowd had gathered near the main hall, 20, maybe 30 wolves, their bodies tense, hostile. Her stomach dropped. She dressed quickly, pulled on the tunic and boots Marin had left, then slipped out into the corridor. The Khan's hall was already filling when she arrived. The crowd parted, eyes tracking her, some curious, others cold. She held her chin high, kept walking. Theron stood at the center, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Beside him stood an older man, gray-haired, broad-shouldered, his gaze sharp and unyielding, the elder from yesterday. Kira's pulse quickened. "This is madness," the elder said, his voice carried across the room. "You bring a stranger into our home, call her ally instead of mate, and expect us to accept it?" Theron's jaw tightened. "I expect you to respect my decision." "Your decision?" The elder stepped forward. "Or hers?" Silence rippled through the hall. Kira felt the weight of every stare. "She refused the bond," the elder continued. "Refused her place. And yet you give her a queen's quarters. You stand beside her as if she's already claimed you." "She saved my life," Theron said quietly. "Then she should accept the bond." The elder's tone hardened. "Formalize it. Prove her loyalty." Kira's hands clenched at her sides. The bond flared in her chest, restless, demanding. She stepped forward. "I don't owe you proof," she said. The elder's gaze snapped to her. "You owe this pack everything." "I owe you my skill," Kira said, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. "I owe you my magic. I owe you my willingness to fight. But I don't owe you my body or my choice." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The elder's mouth thinned. "The bond is sacred. It's not something you pick and choose." "No," Kira moved closer. "It's something I accept when I'm ready, not when you demand it." "Enough." Theron's voice cut through the noise. Sharp. Final. The room went still. He turned to face the elder, his eyes burning gold. "Kira stays on her terms. She fights with us. She uses her magic to protect this pack. And she will not be forced into a bond ceremony until she chooses it." The elder's jaw worked. "You're making a mistake. Then it's mine to make?" Theron's tone dropped, low, and dangerous. And if anyone in this pack pressures her, threatens her, or tries to undermine her position, they answer to me." The bond surged, fierce and bright. Kira's breath caught. The elder stared at Theron, his expression tight. Then he glanced at Kira. Something unreadable flickered in his gaze. "You're willing to risk division for her?" he asked. "I'm willing to protect her autonomy," Theron said, "because that's what a king does. He stands for what's right, not what's easy." The silence stretched. Then the elder stepped back, his shoulders stiff. "As you wish, my king." He turned and walked out. Half the crowd followed. Kira's knees felt weak. Theron's gaze found hers, steady, unwavering. The remaining wolves watched. Some nodded. Others frowned. But none spoke. Slowly the hall emptied, until only a few remained. Maren, a handful of younger wolves, and Theron. Kira exhaled, long and shaky. Theron crossed to her, his voice low. "Are you all right?" "You just turned half your pack against you," she said. "Not against me." His mouth curved, just slightly. "Against the idea of change. They'll come around. And if they don't, then they don't." His hand brushed hers, brief but deliberate. "I meant what I said. Your choice matters more than their approval." The bond pulsed between them, warm and fierce. Kira swallowed. "Thank you." He held her gaze. "Don't thank me for doing what's right." Maren stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "The dissenters will talk, spread doubt. You'll need to prove yourself quickly." Kira nodded. "I know." "Good." Maren's tone softened, just a fraction. "Because the enemy won't wait for you to settle in." Theron's jaw tightened. "We start training today. Kira will work with the scouts, show them what she can do." Kira straightened. "I'm ready." His eyes gleamed, pride flickering there. "I know you are." The remaining wolves dispersed, murmuring amongst themselves. Kira stood still, her heart pounding. Theron stayed beside her, close but not touching. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yes," he said. "I did." She looked up at him, searching his face. "Why?" His expression softened. "Because you're not just my mate. You're my partner. And partners don't get bullied into submission." Her throat tightened. The bond sang in her chest. She wanted to say something. Thank him. Tell him it mattered. But the words stuck. Instead, she reached out, fingers brushing his wrist. His pulse jumped beneath her touch. "I won't let you down," she whispered. "You couldn't," he said. "Not if you tried." Then he stepped back, gave her space. "Come on," he said. "Let's show them what you can do." Kira followed him out into the morning light. The compound stretched ahead, full of wolves who doubted her, feared her, resented her presence. But Theron walked beside her, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she believed she could earn their respect. One choice at a time. The training grounds emptied as dusk settled over the compound. Kira's muscles ached from hours of drills with the scouts, proving herself. Again and again. She'd moved earth without touching it, called barriers from nothing. The younger wolves had watched with wary fascination. The older ones stayed silent. But she'd seen their respect, grudging though it was. Now the compound lay quiet, most wolves retreating to evening meals and rest. Kira stood alone near the practice ring, breathing hard. Theron's scent reached her before his footsteps did. She turned, found him approaching through the gathering shadows. "You did well today," he said. "I showed them what they needed to see." She wiped sweat from her forehead. "Whether they trust me is another matter. Trust takes time. We don't have much of that." His expression shifted, concern flickering there. "No, we don't." She studied him, the tension in his shoulders the weight he carried. "You're worried," she said. "Always." His mouth curved. "Just slightly. But less so with you here." The bond hummed between them, warm and insistent. Kira's pulse quickened. "I should clean up," she said. "Get some rest." Or, he hesitated. "You could have dinner with me, in my quarters, away from watching eyes." Her breath caught. Not a command, an invitation. "Just dinner?" she asked. "Just dinner," his gaze steady. "And conversation, if you want." She wanted to say yes. The bond urged her forward. But fear still lingered. Old patterns. Old wounds. "I'm not ready for," she trailed off. "I know." His voice soft. "Neither am I. Not yet?" That surprised her. "You're not?" "Kira." He stepped closer. Not crowding, just near. "I've been alone a long time, leading, fighting, never letting anyone close." He paused. "You're the first person I've wanted to share space with in years. That's terrifying." Her chest tightened. "You don't seem terrified." "I hide it well." His smile turned wry. "Comes with the crown." She exhaled slowly. The honesty disarmed her. "Dinner," she said, "and conversation." Relief flickered across his face. "Good." They walked together through the compound. Wolves nodded as they passed. Some curious, some disapproving. Kira ignored them. Theron's quarters occupied the northern wing. Private, removed from the main halls. Inside, it was simpler than she'd expected. A large bed, a desk covered in maps, bookshelves lining one wall. No throne, no excess, just a room. "You look surprised," he said. "I am." She glanced around. "I expected something more imposing. I get enough of that in the throne room." He moved to a low table near the hearth. 2 plates already waited. Bread, roasted meat, simple fare. "Sit, please." She settled on the cushions. He joined her, close but not touching. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Theron spoke, his voice quiet. "Tell me something about yourself. Something no one else knows." Kira hesitated. "Why?" "Because I want to know you. Not just the magic wielder. Not just my mate." He met her eyes. "You." Her throat tightened. "I used to sing. Before everything went wrong. My mother taught me old songs. Pack songs." She looked down. "I haven't sung in years." "Why not?" "Because my father said it made me weak. Distracted." She swallowed. "He said I had to be strong, silent, obedient." Theron's jaw tightened. He was wrong. "I know that now." She looked up. "Your turn. Tell me something." He leaned back, thinking. "I'm afraid of failing them. All of them. The pack. The kingdom." His voice dropped. You won't fail me. You don't know that. I do." She reached out, fingers brushing his. "Because you've already proven you won't. Over and over." His hand turned, palm against hers. Warm and steady. The bond flared between them. Not demanding, just present. "Stay tonight," he said. "Just to sleep. Nothing more. I don't want you walking back alone in the dark." Her pulse jumped. Fear and longing tangled together. "Theron." "You can take the bed. I'll sleep on the floor." He squeezed her hand gently. "I just want you close, where I know you're safe." She should say no. Keep distance. Protect herself. But she was tired of running. Tired of fear. "I'll stay," she whispered, "but we share the bed. As equals." His eyes widened. Just slightly. "Are you sure?" Yes, he nodded slowly. All right. They finished eating, cleared the plates. The fire burned low in the hearth. Kira moved to the bed, still wearing her training clothes, too tired to care. Theron followed, settling on the far side, careful not to crowd her. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling. His breathing steadied beside her, close but not touching. The bond hummed softly. Content. Theron? Yes? Thank you. For today, for all of it. He shifted, turning toward her in the darkness. You don't have to thank me. I know. She turned too, finding his gaze in the shadows. But I want to. Silence stretched between them. Comfortable now. Then he reached out, slowly, giving her time to pull away. His hand cupped her cheek, gentle and reverent. Can I kiss you? He whispered. Her breath caught. Yes. He leaned in, soft and careful, his lips brushing hers, tender, questioning. She kissed him back, just as gently. The bond sang between them, warm and bright. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. Sleep, he murmured. I've got you. She believed him. For the first time in days, she felt safe. The war still loomed. The pack still doubted. But here, in this quiet moment, she had hope. And a partner who chose her, every single day. That was enough. For now.